Hi, my dear civil service aspirants, my dear friends. Like I always say, a single question can be the game changer in the prelims examination and in mains and in your optional also. When you study your optional, I would say you must have an integrated strategy of preparing. Cover the prelims areas also. Now here, our module, our topic is the foreign travelers and their views on India's society, economy, religion, culture and other aspects. Here we will be discussing the foreign travelers and their views on medieval Indian society, medieval Indian economy, medieval Indian culture, polity, etc. The foreign travelers and their views, or the foreign travelers and their opinions about Indian society, Indian economy, Indian culture, religion of ancient times, medieval times, modern times. Yeah, that's a favorite area for UPSC. Not only in prelims, but in your mains and in your optional, you can add this part as a value addition point. I started with Ibn Battuta. Ibn Battuta visited India in the first half of the 14th century AD. Ibn Battuta, he was a Moroccan traveler. You take care of each of my point because that will be either a question in the prelims or additional points in our mains. Okay. So Ibn Battuta, he was a Moroccan traveler, visited India in the beginning of this 14th century AD, and his popular work is Rihla or My Travels, in which he discusses the social, economic, political, cultural fabric of India. Okay. Regarding slavery, this point is very important because in the prelims they will be asking you a question like this. What was his observation or opinion about slavery? Slavery was absent or slavery was present? According to him, slavery was present here. When he arrived in India, at Sindh, he bought the camels, horses and slaves in order to gift Muhammad bin Tughlaq, the very Delhi Sultan or the Sultan of Delhi Sultanate during that time. It was Muhammad bin Tughlaq. He is known for his novel experimental reforms. Okay, to gift him, yes, Ibn Battuta bought these slaves, camels and horses. So slavery was a common institution, or slavery was practiced in India during the first half of the 14th century AD. Foreign traders established here. They were called Khurasanis, and Khurasanis, they formed their guild in India, their trade organizations, and they thrived in India. Foreign traders and merchants thrived in India. Sati was practiced here. Sati was with the permission of this king only. Sati was practiced here. It was an approved institution here. Then brutal punishments were given to lawbreakers. Again, you take care that during the time of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, yes, very brutal, barbaric punishments were given to criminals or culprits, etc. That's very important. Famines. In the first half of 14th century, India witnessed famines and poverty. That's another account. Food grains. Different food grains were cultivated by Indians. Also, he talks about the dietary habits of these Indians. Pans, coconuts, etc. used by Indians. India had inter-Asian trade relations. It conducted trade with West Asia, Central Asia, Southeast Asia, etc. So India's inter-Asian trade was at its peak or climax. Okay, and again, yeah, these are the popular informations given by Ibn Battuta in his Rihla. Then there is another popular foreign traveler. Yeah, that is Francisco Pelswert. Francisco Pelswert, that is another popular Dutch traveler to India in the first half of 17th century AD. In the first half of 17th century AD, and he said that the life of the common people was miserable. The life of the aristocracy, nobles or the higher classes, it was luxurious. They lived in luxuries and extravagances, but the life of these common people, it was miserable. Famines and poverty issues were there. And some popular trade centers were there. Delhi, Agra, Surat were some important trade centers in India. So trade and commerce, both internal and external trade and commerce, it was thriving like anything. But the life of the common people like farmers and artisans, it was difficult. Then there is another traveler, that is Francois Bernier. UPSC asked a question in the prelims also. Francois Bernier. This is to save the time. I just written all these first on the board, okay, so that it will be saving the time. So Francois Bernier is another popular French traveler. Is a popular French traveler, visited India in the second half of the 17th century AD. Visited India in the second half of the 17th century AD, was a French traveler, and he was a physician. By profession, he was a physician, he was a doctor, to Dara Shukog. Dara Shukog, you know that he was the elder son of Shah Jahan. Okay, elder son of Shah Jahan. So, this Francois Bernier acted as the physician, or he was a physician to this Dara Shukog. And one of the biggest observation by Francois Bernier, what is the difference between West and East? Here he says that, India, what was absent? Private ownership was absent. The land was treated as the state ownership. So there is no scope for this rise of the middle classes, rise of these property classes, rise of the capitalist classes. No such scope here. Here the land was owned by the state only. Okay, that he observed as one of the biggest drawback of Indian society or Indian economy. There was no private ownership of the land. Even later century, 18th century, Montesquieu also simply followed these observations of Francois Bernier. But many historians believe that this is a misinterpretation, or this is a biased interpretation. In fact, even in these Mughal chronicles also, it is not suggested that land was wholly owned by the state or the king. In fact, private property is also practiced here. But Francois Bernier made an observation like this: private ownership was totally absent here. Enter land property, its revenues, it was enjoyed by the king or the state. Okay, no middle classes here. Peasants, artisans, they lived in extreme poverty. Merchants enjoyed a very rich life, and also the cities were ruined. These are some. You see that this actually, the observations of this Francois Bernier, it laid the foundation for this Oriental despotism, which was praised by Montesquieu and others all. Okay, so take care that it was a biased view, or it was a misinterpretation given by Francois Bernier. And the next popular foreign traveler was Jean-Baptiste Tournier. Even it was asked in the prelims also. You remember, this was asked, this personality was asked in the prelims also. He was a 17th century AD traveler. He was a French jeweler, merchant, traveler to India, and he was fascinated by the trade circumstances in India. The rich gold mines, diamond mines, or the richness of Indian princely states, Mughal Empire, for example. Okay, so the richness of Indian rulers or Indian kingdoms. So he was totally impressed by, fascinated by the wealth of the India, especially India's gold mines, India's diamond mines, etc. fascinated him. So he was really inspired by these trade or rich trade cultures or maybe backgrounds of India. He was a French jeweler, merchant come traveler, visited India in the 17th century AD. Then Edward Terry, he visited India in the first half of the 17th century AD. Yeah, he has given or had given, yes, a very precise description on the rites, rituals and ceremonies of Indian Hindus and Muslims. And also he has description on the cultivation of the two major crops, the Portuguese crops introduced in India, tobacco and potato. Okay, he has his accounts given. He has a detailed description about this cultivation of the two Portuguese crops in India, which is tobacco and potato. Also, he talks about these Indians' habits, languages, games, dietary, etc. Then Ralph Fitch, he visited India in the second half of the 16th century AD, and he visited Benares, and he talks about the idol worship of Benares. Also, he says that Benares was a rich trade center. It was a rich center for this clothing and cloth trade, etc. Okay, so this is the way we will be discussing more. I mean, the French or this Portuguese or the Dutch or the European travelers and their observations about India's socio-economic, political, religious and cultural aspects. This concept is important as a value addition part in your history optional. Also, this is important for your prelims examination. So stay tuned, and please do subscribe our channel. If you didn't subscribe it, please do subscribe the channel. Wishing you all the very best. Thank you.